All right, we're going to talk about human life since it seems like there's so much talking about what's going on in Washington voting on so many issues related to women and human life. And my first thoughts are that we ought to get Washington out of America's bedroom, and we ought to get Washington out of dictating to women of what to do, with their lives when it comes to the unborn child or what it is to do with the children after they're born. And on that subject, I think the first thing we need to do is to do more training of everyone as they're growing up as children so that everyone understands how precious human life is. If we understand how precious human life is, then the right kind of choices will be, made when it comes to when someone's pregnant, what they do with having a baby, whatever the decision, it will be based on understanding how precious human life is. But it shouldn't stop there. It seems too often that, once the babies are born, it seems like as a society, it just comes down to, the mother or to the family to try to handle and work with the children the best they can without really knowing, the kind of things that they could be doing with their children. And along those lines, what I'm trying to get at is if children are so precious, then we should be, as a community, treating them that way from the time before they're born till after they're born, and each year as they're growing up and as they get to school age. And with that, I think if we recognize how precious children are, that no matter how different each child is, we will treat them as special. And all the other children ought to be treating them special too. And by doing this, we will find that as the children grow up, they'll all feel like they're loved, they're wanted, and they're special, whatever it is that makes them special as children. And that way, instead of picking on somebody that's unusual or different in how they respond or how they react, we will be close to each other. And this will make a big difference in what happens over time. Because right now, we find that if children don't fit into the norm, it's not long before we find things like maybe they're sent to juvenile delinquency or lots of different issues at school. And the community doesn't want the children, the schools don't want the children because they're acting out of the norm. And this needs to change because if every human life is precious, we need to be working with each one to make them a part of the society. Because if they are part of the society, then later on in life we won't find these same children doing things like we've been seeing on the news with killing each other, doing drugs, stealing, breaking in and causing harm to families, that there will be a difference because everyone will feel loved and cared for in the community. And so we need to focus much more heavily on what we do, with each life. The mothers recognize how precious their children are, but sometimes I wonder whether the communities we live in and all the neighbors and our friends around also recognize the same thing of how precious each child is. So, with that, I think we should, as we go forward, it's something we shouldn't be doing from Washington. It's something we should be doing in our neighborhood, in our communities, and training and working with everyone to let them understand of how precious life really is, and not something we should dictate from Washington. Thank you.